You ever hear something so innocent that it ruins your life? For me, it was the jingle of an ice cream truck. That cheerful melody that used to make my kids run barefoot across hot asphalt now brings a pit to my stomach so deep I don't think I'll ever crawl out. It started the summer after our 10th anniversary. I thought we were in a good place. Comfortable. Predictable. Maybe even a little boring, but isn't that what love turns into over time? We had the house, the 2 kids, a chocolate lab named Murphy. Melissa, my wife, worked part-time at the local library while I ran a modest home renovation business. We weren't flashy, but we were solid. Or at least I thought we were. The first time I noticed something was off was a Tuesday. My youngest, Sam, had been begging for a snow cone all morning, so when I heard that familiar tune rolling down the street, I smiled. Melissa was out front weeding the flower bed. She told me she'd take care of it. "I'll grab him something," she said, brushing a bit of dirt off her knee. "You finish your calls." So I watched from the window as she stood by the curb, chatting with the driver. He was young, maybe late 20s, broad-shouldered and tan, with a big goofy grin and arms covered in tattoos. Something about the way she laughed at his joke, her hand resting too easily on her hip, it made something shift in me. Nothing solid, just a flicker. But I felt it. I pushed the thought away. Melissa was friendly. That's all. But then the truck came back the next day. And the next. I chalked it up to coincidence. Maybe this was his new route. But even coincidences start looking suspicious when they happen too often. Especially when I saw her hand him a cold bottle of water one afternoon and he lingered for longer than it took to scoop ice cream for the kids. A week later, I came home early from a job. It was one of those brutal July days where the air felt like soup. I was sweaty, tired, and already dreading the paperwork I had to finish. When I turned the corner onto our street, I saw the truck parked just past our mailbox. No kids in sight. No sound of laughter. No customers. And then I saw her. Melissa was leaning against the side of the truck, laughing like she hadn't in years. Not since before Sam was born. Her hand was on his chest. His hand was not where it should have been. I didn't stop the truck. I drove past, heart slamming against my ribs, and turned down the next street to park. I sat there for 20 minutes, sweat drying against my shirt, until I could breathe again. When I came back, the ice cream truck was gone, and Melissa was inside making sandwiches like nothing happened. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I started watching. She got sneakier after that. When the truck started parking 2 blocks over and she'd go for a walk around the time it passed by. When she told me she was picking up extra shifts at the library, but her uniform was still clean in the hamper. I wanted to believe I was imagining things. That maybe I was just tired, paranoid, burnt out. But doubt is like mold, it starts small, then spreads into everything. Then came the day it happened right in front of me. It was a Saturday. The kids were at their grandma's for the weekend. Melissa had said she wanted a quiet day in the garden. I had a job across town, but I forgot my tool belt and had to swing back to grab it. I didn't pull into the driveway. Something told me not to. I parked on the street and came around the back gate. That's when I heard it. That stupid, mocking jingle. And then, quiet laughter. Moaning. Soft, breathy sounds from behind the truck, right at the edge of our yard. I froze. She was there, dress hiked up, legs wrapped around the waist of a man who handed out SpongeBob popsicles. His shirt was off, her hands tangled in his hair. My Melissa. In broad daylight. Against the side of a sticky, sugar-stained truck. They didn't see me. Not right away. I stood there long enough to feel my stomach turn. Long enough to hate myself for watching. When she finally noticed, it was like something out of a dream. Her eyes went wide, mouth open, but no words came out. She just clutched her dress and stumbled back, as if she couldn't believe I was real. I didn't say a thing. I turned around, walked through the gate, got in my truck, and drove off. and for the first time in my life, I didn't know if I was ever coming back. The worst part of betrayal isn't the act itself, it's the silence afterward. That hollow space where your thoughts echo too loudly, and nothing makes sense anymore. I didn't go home that night. I drove aimlessly, ended up sleeping in the cab of my truck outside a 24-hour diner 2 towns over. Melissa blew up my phone, text after text, but I didn't read any of them. I couldn't. The next morning, I drove to my buddy Trent's place. He's the kind of guy who doesn't ask questions when you show up looking like you crawled out of a ditch. He handed me a beer before I even finished saying hey. You staying a while? He asked. Probably, I said. Spare room's yours. Bathroom's clean. Help yourself to anything but the last slice of pizza. That's sacred. We didn't talk about Melissa. Not right away. For 3 days, I stayed there in a limbo of beer, couch cushions, and numb disbelief. But on the 4th morning, I woke up to the sound of the ice cream truck jingle drifting in from somewhere nearby, and I snapped. I smashed a mug. My hands shook. Trent didn't say anything. He just nodded and handed me a broom. I take it you're ready to talk. I told him everything. The flirting, the walks, the garden, the truck. All of it. By the end, I was more tired than angry. Just deflated. Trent sat in silence for a minute, then said, Man, I don't know what's wrong with people. But you can't let this wreck you. Too late, I muttered. No, he said, firmer. It's not. Look, you can't unscrew what she did. But you can decide what happens next. You just gotta ask yourself, do you want to stay married to someone who'd do this in your own yard? Where your kids play? That was the turning point. Not her betrayal, but the realization that I couldn't live in the same house where she did that. Where I watched our lives become a punchline to a joke I never wanted to be part of. I went home that afternoon. Melissa was sitting on the porch, eyes red, hair pulled back in a way I hadn't seen in years. Not since we were young and stupid and everything still felt new. She stood up fast when she saw me. Can we talk? She asked, voice barely a whisper. You've been doing plenty of that already, I said, stepping past her and into the house. She followed me, kept her distance as I packed a bag. It didn't mean anything, she said. I zipped the duffel. You moaned like it meant something. Her voice cracked. Please, Jake. I made a mistake. No. A mistake is forgetting our anniversary. A mistake is burning dinner. What you did was a choice. And you made it over and over again. She crumpled into the chair by the front window. I couldn't tell if the tears were for me or for the life she knew she'd just set fire to. Maybe both. I'll do anything, she whispered. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. I stood in the hallway, staring at the photos on the wall. Our wedding. The kids' birthdays. One of Melissa and me at the beach, smiling so wide you'd think we had it all figured out. I wanted to grow old with you, I said quietly. Now I can't even stand the sound of a damn ice cream truck. She looked up, and for a second, I saw the woman I married. But she was buried under so much guilt and confusion, I knew she wasn't coming back. Not the way I needed her to. I'm not staying, I said. Not for you. Not for this. I walked out. Got in the truck. Drove until our house was a memory in the rearview. And I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just let it go. That was a year ago. The divorce went through in the fall. The kids are okay, they live with me most weeks, and they've stopped asking about the music from the ice cream truck. I think they know, in their own way, that something broke that summer. Something that couldn't be glued back together with promises or therapy or tears. Melissa moved out of the neighborhood. I heard she left town not long after. The truck stopped coming by too. But sometimes, on a hot day, when the windows are down and the world's too quiet, I hear it. That dumb, cheerful jingle echoing faintly in the distance. And every time, I remind myself, pain has a sound. But so does healing. And healing sounds a lot like silence.